Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the forecast for the full moon that's occurring on March 14th, 2025. We're going to look at the forecast for each life path number to see how these energies might affect you. Now, what's important about this illumination is it's also an eclipse. And so this lunar eclipse is actually going to start the evening of the 13th. And will continue through into the early hours of the 14th. The full moon reaches its fullness on the early mornings of the 14th. So kind of looking at both of those dates, depending on where you live in the world. Now, this lunar eclipse, we're already in eclipse season. So at the time of this recording, which is on the 5th of March, we're already heavy into this. We're feeling these energies. And so it's, of course, going to be at its point of culmination on the 14th. Now, eclipses and why these are so important is because a lot of times they can bring in some kind of closure, some kind of ending, and they can initiate the beginning of a new storyline, a new cycle. And a lot of times we won't see what sort of is in store or what this energy is bringing about fully until several months down the road. And so again, where this might be the point of initiation or the point of culmination, depending on the situation, we might not see the full effects of this eclipse until 3 to 6 months down the road, sometimes even beyond that into the next year. So it's a storyline that is continuing to unfold, continuing to open. However, around the point of this illumination and this eclipse, we should have a pretty good idea of what that storyline is going to be. And that's what we'll kind of look at today to see what the point is, the point of your awareness, where that needs to be around this eclipse. Okay, before we get into the forecast for the life path numbers, this is a general forecast. If you would like your own personal numerology reading, I would love to work with you. You can book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. All right, let's take a look. Life path number 8. You all are going to be working with a very intense, very powerful energy for this eclipse. You are going to be working with a vibration of the 16-7. So let's break this down. Anytime we move through a 16-7 cycle, and for you all, well, for everybody, for this eclipse, remember this is creating a new storyline. We could be closing some things out because it's a full moon lunar eclipse, so there could be some things coming to culmination, some things closing out, some things that we're releasing at this time, making way for the new to come in, this new storyline to open up. So you could see a bunch of things, right? Some things ending and some big new beginnings. And I would say, again, this is happening over the course of the next 6 months to a year. For you all, this 16-7 energy, this cycle brings in transformation at the deepest level. The 16-7, to kind of put it into perspective, is like tower energy in tarot, right? So there's some kind of significant event that may occur that brings about some kind of significant awakening. And that awakening will bring a tremendous amount of clarity, a tremendous amount of awareness to whatever area this shows up for you. But typically when we move through 16-7 energy, it's at a very physical level, which is actually really aligned with your energy of the 8, because the 8 governs all things physical, right? It's of the physical plane. So there's a high spiritual element to it, just as there is with a 16-7. But it's in this human experience. It's in this physical reality. So some kind of significant change, occurrence, event could really overthrow any existing conditions, belief systems, any path that you're on. Like, this is that kind of energy where you're moving along on one path and life just literally picks you up and moves you and drops you down in another completely different path, completely different direction. But what you end up finding is this new direction is actually much more aligned for where you're at on this journey. And the other path was probably riddled with, living in the past or worrying about the future and not really making any progress. So the 16-7 really pushes to have us move through some kind of extreme physical experience that wakes us up, that jolts us, back into life, so to speak. And also that helps us to transcend the limitations that are keeping us stuck, right? Because there's those limitations that we all have that we have to live with. They're with us for life. And we just have to find ways to manage them or work with them and call in the resources that have the strengths where we have the weaknesses, right? And learning that about ourselves, that our limitations are not something to be ashamed of or something we have to defeat, all those things, we actually make the journey much easier when we realize okay, well, these are my limitations. Let me find some people who have strengths in these areas and, and I probably have strengths where they have weaknesses. So let's make some things happen. Instead of being well, these are my limitations and I'm never going to achieve what I want to achieve. I'm never going to go after. So again, the self-doubt, all those things come in. The 16-7 helps to break us free from those limitations in a sense, right? Help us to see what it is that we couldn't see that was holding us back and give us the answer for what we need to do in order to move forward. So there is a really high level of spirituality tied to this energy. It's helping us to see clearly the physical aspect that's keeping us stuck and rise above it. Right? And we still have to move through it because we're human. But the 16-7 helps us to see much more clearly the actions that we need to take. And usually, again, it's kind of like being jolted awake. So if we've been in a toxic connection for a while, then this energy could come in and bring some kind of, I don't want to say catastrophic event, but some kind of extreme situation to shake us out of it, to help us to see oh, this isn't working. I need to make some decisions here. This is not a comfortable energy to work with. And again, I don't say that to fear monger, and 8s are used to the highs and lows of life. It's about your inner strength in this lifetime. It's about overcoming all obstacles and continuing to persevere and all of those things. So, this is kind of an energy that you might actually see the true value in when it's happening. Okay, I wasn't aware of this, or I was aware of it, but I didn't have the courage to face it. This energy brings that bolt of lightning that then brings the clarity. And it's through that clarity that we make different decisions, or we make decisions that will help us to move forward. So it's absolutely supportive energy. It's just not an easy energy to usually move through because we are waking up to ourselves. We are waking up to, the changes that need to occur in our lives in order to move in a healthier direction. And sometimes that can be challenging because not only do we just wake up to it, then we have to put in the work to continue to move forward in that direction. So I would say over the course of, say, the next 6 months to a year, you will likely see some unforeseen and sudden events that really do help you to see things from a bigger perspective, or to see where it is that maybe your actions, your ideas, your habits may have been really, truly impeding your ability to move forward. And sometimes this energy can come in a really abrupt, kind of forceful manner. And that's, and that's the part that sometimes we get, that's the part that makes it a little bit uncomfortable, right? Is because sometimes we have to be shaken awake from this, our existential coma that we may be in. And so it can be a little bit challenging. This cycle can bring in losses. It can bring in setbacks, especially in business and financial affairs. And again, this aligns very much with the 8 energy. You all are likely very used to this, the highs and lows of the physical experiences of life, including money, power, status, influence, etc. This energy can bring in those losses and those setbacks. But those losses and those setbacks are absolutely meant to show you where something is not working, where something was not working, and that you're not meant to be continuing to invest your energy there. I would say be really mindful at this time about purely selfish ambitions. So in other words, I'm going to walk all over people to get what I want. I'm going to control this situation to the point where I manipulate people or manipulate the situation to get what I want, to serve me, not taking others into consideration. When you're moving through that kind of energy, and that can sometimes fall under 8 energy, when you're moving through that kind of energy, or you're on that path, let's put it that way, when you're on that path and a 16-7 vibration comes through, or a 16-7 cycle, this can bring in the bankruptcy. This can bring in the extreme loss, the extreme situations, again, to help us to wake up, to see that the direction that we're moving is not helping anyone, including ourselves. And sometimes, again, that can be really hard to see, especially if we're on a more selfish journey. And that's not a judgment, because for 8s, you almost have to move through those more selfish journeys to be able to step into the higher octave of the energy of the 8. And you almost need to move through those really controlling situations where you're at the hand of that, right? To see where extremes of anything can be really detrimental and toxic. So it's part of the journey, really. It's not I'm not shaming you. It's part of the journey. But the 16-7 can bring in the extreme situations that hopefully help you to see that the path you're on is more destructive than constructive. And hopefully it will help to move you in a better direction that is, again, much more aligned with the vibration of the 8, which is your life path number. I would say be careful about obsessive behavior, controlling behavior, manipulative behavior during this time for sure. You might fall into a situation where another person is bringing that game to you. And again, it's helping you to see where that behavior serves no one. And so it's an opportunity to break free from that, to step into your power and to be empowered. It is possible for deception to occur in business transactions. So if you're signing contracts during this time, please make sure that you're doing your due diligence and you're reading the fine print. Please make sure that you have someone look it over, a lawyer. If you're the one who's deceiving another person and the 16-7 energy comes through, this is where you're going to see those extreme sort of backlashes. So if you've been moving through integrity at this, all this time, and you're on a path that feels really good and it's helping you and helping others and blah, 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 then this energy, isn't going to feel as intense for you as it would for someone who has those lessons to learn, who isn't moving from a space of true integrity. And the whole point of the 16-7 is to show where that is and then help to rectify the situation and get you on the healthier path. Be careful, though, like I said, about obsession. You might meet someone at this time where it's just instant lust. And I would say just take your time. This is not the time to, meet someone and then immediately get married. I would highly, or move in together or whatever. I would highly recommend not doing that. You can do what you want to do, but with the 16-7 energy, I would say for the next 6 months or so, if you meet someone, I'm not saying they're not the one, but take your time. Don't be overly impulsive. Please take your time. It's likely that there's some kind of greater lesson to be learned through that connection. Not saying it can't be the love of your life and be long-term. Absolutely can. 7 energy has to do with long-term relationships, contracts, that sort of thing. But I would just say with the 16 vibration, just be really careful. Get to know the person. Let's just put it that way. Don't be careful. Just get to know the person before you make any big commitments with a close partner at this time. Someone that you just meet. Be careful about overworking at this time, burning the candle at both ends. That's just going to lead to frustration and burnout. And that's very, very possible at this time. So be really careful about that. Take your time, self-soothe, make sure that you've got time for downtime and reflection and going deeper. This is a beautiful opportunity to go deeper with self. This is ultimately at the core of this energy is about self-discovery. Whatever comes in for you around this time is helping you to see something more clearly about yourself and about the direction your life is moving that might need some adjustments. And you are at the helm of the ship to make those adjustments happen. Follow your intuition at this time. This is a highly intuitive, highly spiritual period. You could see, pay attention to your dreams. You could see downloads come in, spiritual messages come through. Pay attention to all of that at this time because it's trying to connect you with your higher self to see more clearly the path that your soul wants to be on. I would also say this is, it's one of the high points of this energy is creative talents can come in at this time, like the spark for your creativity can come in at this time. And that creativity and gaining or having insights into that future goal can absolutely in the future bring good fortune, bring recognition, bring, lots of bright prospects. So a lot of things creatively can arise suddenly at this time. It's not all like doom and gloom, which is really, really powerful. So definitely pay attention to what comes in for you. The power for loss is great under a 16, but so is the potential for financial gain, fame, prosperity, all the material rewards that you are potentially working towards, you could see come in under the next 6 months. So I know I spent a lot of time on the sort of the doom and gloom, but the 16-7, if, like I said, if you're moving from a place of integrity, you're following your dreams and your goals and you're working towards that vision, the next 6 months for you or next 6 months to a year could absolutely see those big wins, see that fame, see that fortune, see that those accolades come in. So, it depends on the work that you've sort of been doing. If you've been moving down a path that's been more destructive than constructive, you're going to see the more uncomfortable side of this cycle. But if you've been moving from a place of integrity or moving towards your goals and it's not just driven by selfish needs, you're likely going to see some really big rewards at this time. So very, very powerful energy for you all eights. Very transformative and very much life-changing, I would say. So I hope it's a great one. Take care. Bye for now, eights.